Hey developers, welcome back to my channel. In the previous video, we have covered the basics of Dart and Flutter. Now, it's time to dive into some more advanced topic. In this video, I'll be focusing on operators, control structures, and loops in Dart. We'll start by looking at the different types of operators available in Dart, including arithmetic, relational, and logical operators. Then we'll explore how to use if-else statement and switch cases to control the flow of your code. And finally, we will take a deep dive into loops. By the end of this video, you will have a good understanding of how to use these powerful tools to write more effective and efficient code in Dart. So, grab your code editor and let's get started. Dart supports a variety of arithmetic operators for performing mathematical operations in your code. You can add, subtract, or multiply two values by each other. But when it comes to division, the result is in decimal value, which is of double data type. And I have written int data type. The compiler will give me error. So in that case, I should write var in case of not getting any errors. The modulus operator is used to find the remainder of one value divided by another. In case of getting fraction value when you are dividing two values. So use this operator. It is the truncating division operator. It performs an integer division, discarding any fractional remainder and returning only the integer part of the result. So here's the example. A equals to 10 and B equals to 3. If you divide them with this operator, then would be equal to 3. Because it replaces the fractional value and gives you the integer result. Now two more operators are left, increment and decrement. Increment operator is used to increase a value by 1. The decrement operator is used to decrease value by 1. These arithmetic operators can be used in various combinations to perform complex mathematical operations. Additionally, Dart supports operators precedence, which determines the order in which operators are executed. It is important to note that when dividing integers in Dart, the result will always be an integer, even if the division results in a fraction. To obtain a floating result, you can cast one or both value as double before performing the division. Before jump into the logical and relational operators, have a look at the if-else statement. If-else statement in Dart is used to make decision in your code based on the true, falsehood or of an expressions or anything present in the code or not. This greater than, less than, and equal to are the relational operators, okay? So I'm using relational operators with the if-else statement just to show you how these statements and tools work together. So in this example, we have a score variable. If a score is greater than or equal to 90, this will print you got an A, okay? And if the score is greater than and equal to 80 but less than 90, then this will print the message you got B, okay? If the course is greater than or equal to 70 but less than 80, then this will print the message you got a C. If the score is less than 70 and the message you got D or below is printed. It is important to note that if-else statement can be nested inside another if-else statement. This allows you to make more complex decisions based on multiple conditions. So don't get confused. Just to show you the syntax how if-else work with the relational operators and logical operators, right? Now let's see the example of if-else with the logical operators. What are logical operators? Logical operators for making decisions in your code based on true and falsehood expressions. And the AND operator returns true if both expressions are true and false. Or the OR operators return true if either of the expressions are true and false otherwise. The not operator returns true if the expression is false and false if the expression is true. I have two variables, A, the value 10, B with the value 20. If A equals to 10 and B equals to 20, then this will print yes if both the expressions are true. But if both the expressions are false, then this will print no. Similarly, or if A equals to 10 or B equals to 20, then this will print yes. In the OR statement, in the OR operator, it will return true if either of the expressions are true. The AND and OR operator are used to create more complex expressions by combining multiple simple expressions. The NOT operator is used to reverse true value of an expression. It is important to note that the Dart evaluates logical operators in a short-circuit manner. This means that if the first expression in an AND or OR operation is enough to determine the result, the second expression is not evaluated. This can help improve the performance of your code by avoiding unnecessary calculations. Single equal to sign is used to assign the value to a variable. This is the assignment operator. But double equal to is the equality operator. It checks whether the value equal to that variable or not. And this is a relational operator. I forgot to mention. Let's jump to the switch cases. Switch statement in Dart is used to select one of several code blocks to be executed based on the value of an expression. Switch brackets, name of the variable which you want to be executed based on this value. If case is A, then print excellent. Break is a default statement after each code block to indicate the end of the code block and prevent the execution of code in the next case. If you do not include break statement, the code inside all subsequent cases will be executed. It is important to note that you can use any expression that returns a value in a switch statement, including variable, literals, or even calculations. The expressions must evaluate to a value that can be compared to the values in the cases statement, like int, double, string, or enums values as well. Later, I'll explain you what are enums. Let's have a look what are loops in Dart. First, we'll see the example of for loop. For loop in Dart is used to execute a block of code a specific number of times. So, this is the basic syntax for brackets, initialization, condition, increment, and then code to be executed. Here is an example of for loop. For int I equals to 0, I less than 5, and I increment. The condition expression is I less than 5 is evaluated before each iteration of the loop. If I is less than 5, the loop continues to execute. The increment expression is executed after each iteration of the loop and increases the value of I by 1. The code inside the loop print I is executed for each iteration. So, the for loop in Dart is often used to iterate over arrays, lists, and other collections. Let's see the example of a list. I have a fruit list. Now, I have a fruit list. I set to be 0. And the condition is I less than fruits dot length. It's evaluated before each iteration of the loop. If I is less than the length of the fruits array, the loop continues to execute and the increment expression is executed after each iteration of the loop and increases the value of I by 1. The code inside the loop prints fruit square brackets I. Remember, I explained you when you have to get the value from the list, you have to write the index of that value. So I carries the index of these values, right? So print fruits square brackets I is executed for each iteration and prints the value of each element in the fruits list. While loops. While loops in Dart is used to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a certain condition is true. I have a variable I with the value 0. While I less than 5, print I and then increment I. In this example, while loop starts with the condition expression I less than 5 being evaluated. If I is less than 5, the loop continues to execute and the code inside of the loop print I is executed for each iteration. The increment I is executed after each iteration of the loop and increases the value. So let's take another example. I have another variable n which carries 5 value, sum carries 0 value and I carries 1 value. If I is less than or equal to n, the loop continues to execute, right? The code inside the loop sum plus equals to I adds the value of I to sum for each iteration. The increment expression is executed after each iteration of the loop and increases the value of I. Then, after the end of a while loop, print sum do-while loop in Dart is a type of loop that executes the code inside the loop at least once before checking the condition. The structure of a do-while loop is like do, block of code, then the while condition. Here is the code inside the loop is executed at least once and the condition is evaluated. If the condition is true, the loop continues to execute, and if the condition is false, the loop terminates. Now, let's take an example. Int I equals to 0, do, print I, increment I, and while I less than 5. In this example, the code inside the loop will print the value of I and then increment it by 1 until the value of I is no longer less than 5. So the output will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If while having the condition like I less than or equal to 5, then it includes the 5 in the output. Okay? Note that in the do-while loop, the code inside the loop is executed at least once even if the condition is false from the start. In the case of while loop, the code inside the loop will not be executed if the condition is false from the start. The do-while loop is useful in cases where you want to ensure that the code inside the loop is executed at least once, regardless of the condition. We have covered 3 loops: for loop, while loop, and do-while loop. Now the question raises when to use for, while, and do-while loop. The choice of using for, while, or do-while loop depends on the requirements of the program. So, for loop is used when you need to execute a block of code a specific number of times. For example, through an array or list, the for loop is a good choice. You can use a for loop when you know that the exact number of iterations needed before the loops. While loop is used when you need to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a certain condition is true. For example, when you want to keep asking the user for input until they provide a valid answer. The while loop is a good choice. You can use while loop when you don't know the exact number of iterations needed before the loop starts. Do-while loop is similar to while loop but with a slightly difference. In the do-while loop, the code inside the loop is executed at least once. even if the condition is false. The do-while loop is used when you need to execute the code inside the loop at least once, regardless of the condition. So in conclusion, the choice of which loop to use depends on the requirement of the program or your code. If you know the exact number of iterations needed, the for loop is a good choice. If you want to execute the code repeatedly as long as condition is true, use while loop. And if you need to execute the code inside the loop at least once, use do while loop. That's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned. We have covered a lot of ground today. I'm sure you are already feeling more confident in your ability to write Dart code. Don't forget to stay tuned for the next video in the Dart series, where we will continue to explore even more advanced topics. And if you like this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to me and helps me to create even more great content for you. So until the next time, happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.